Imagine you're at your desk, you get your sketch pad out and your favourite pencils, and you start sketching a masterpiece. And just before you finish, you realise you can't draw hands. You're not alone. Artists of every level have had trouble drawing one thing or another, including myself. And it wasn't because I couldn't draw hands. It was because I wasn't. And that's the key. That's the key thing. In order to be able to draw hands, you need to draw hands. And you need to draw hands consistently. And you need to draw hands every day in order to get better at it. So I've created a challenge. And if you want to follow along, that's great. During this challenge, I'm going to draw hands for 5 days. But before I do that, I want to go through some hand drawing basics so you guys can follow along. Hey guys, and welcome to Hands 101. Hands are built up of cylinders, and that's 3D cylinders, and rectangles, and that's 3D rectangular shapes. And that's basically what your hands are made up of. So we'll start with a rectangle, and bearing in mind all hands are different, so your hands will be different to my hands, and so on. So if we split this rectangle in half, and then we roughly carve it up into thirds as well, and then we split that side into half and that side into half, and then we take this and we cut that off, right? And then we take this and we do that, right? So we've got our basic hand here. It doesn't look like it, but we do. So what we'll start with is the middle, the kind of second finger in from the index finger, and we'll start with that. So we do this. Let's move this down a bit. Okay, so that sets our finger length. Then the index finger is slightly different. This middle piece, this middle kind of cylinder here that breaks up the finger, is slightly shorter, and the actual finger comes to around about half of that finger, right? So that gives you the first finger, and then the next finger, the ring finger, is very similar to the index finger, only the center part is a little bit longer, and then it still comes up to around about half of there, right? So what you've got is, let's just thicken that out. So you've got that kind of, that bowed line there, and to be honest, I should have started it here, but anyway, it doesn't really matter because it still hits the right place. And then the pinky finger, the small finger, ultimately comes up to this line here. So there's that. So if we just bring that there, the knuckle comes on the first third really, and then Then we do that, and then that's there, right? And that's basically your hand, but it gives you just a little idea of how this all works and how we can proceed in a minute with a more 3D hand. So then I did some bits earlier on. So this is basically a hand, and how it's been formed is using that basic structure that we set out a minute ago. And we've created a 3D blocked version of the hand, and it gives you an idea of just how it all comes together. So the center there, and then there, just as it is for the other hand. This is very easy to replicate, especially if you've got a hand ready to go, a reference image for yourself. So you can literally, if you have a good idea of how to draw 3D shapes, you can start off the way we did with the kind of flat 2D version. So there we go, so we've got that, and then we hit the thirds, so there are the thirds, and then we bring that out, there's your knuckle, then we draw our cylinders. So that's the first one, and then we'll draw the second one. So then if I just start off with this first finger, I can then make sure that finger is the same length, and I've kind of messed up a little bit, but that's fine. We'll just get rid of some of the detail, it's fine. And then, because we're slightly different perspective, and then up to there. So then that's your fingers, and they're all kind of tight together. So we're looking at a hand that is kind of like that, but obviously the other way around, which would be like this. What we'll do is we will then put in the cylinder here, and then put in the cylinder there, and as you can see, the hand kind of makes itself in a sense. And then if we want to add in a wrist or whatever, so I'm doing a karate chop in this direction, so it's kind of I don't know. So the next step would be, as long as you did this very lightly, you can then go over this and rub out the sketch, and have a nice inked hand. In digital, we can just use a different layer and make it slightly transparent. Grab a new layer, and then I'll just use black. And we've got a hand, and we can do that same thing with all different positions, and that's how you do a basic hand. It'll give you a good idea of how to structure the hand before you go ahead and sketch it and ink it. If you have any questions, just pop them in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to answer. And if there are enough questions, I might even make a video out of that. Alright, thanks guys. With any challenge, we need rules, so here they are. Rule number 1, we have to draw for 10 minutes every day, no matter what. Rule number 2, you need to draw as many hands as possible in 10 minutes. Rule number 3, we have to use reference. So draw your own hands, someone else's hands, or hands from the internet. But you have to use reference. Before I get started, I'm going to do a control, which is how we'll track our progress. I'll draw 5 hands at the beginning and 5 hands at the end, and we'll see if there's any improvement. I've created 28 reference images using my own hand that you can use. The link will be in the description below, so feel free to use those. I'm going to use them now to do the 5 images I need as a control, so I'll get on and do that. There you go, I now have my 5 control images, so let's go over to the challenge. My editor Jimmy here. I seem to have lost day 3's footage, so yeah, just ignore that. Thanks. Okay guys, the challenge is over. All that's left to do is create the control image and then see how we did. During the 5 days, I noticed that some days were easier to draw than others, and some days I'd been drawing all day, and that's quite apparent when we look at the numbers in a minute. So as you can see, on day 1 we did 6 hands, And on day 9, I'd been drawing all day, so I drew 9 hands. And then on day 3, I did 8 hands. And on day 4, I did 7 hands. And then on day 5, the last day, which is today, I did 8 hands again. So it's quite interesting that the more you draw, the more hands you're able to draw. Also, as the days progressed, my hands got better, and I mean, some hands I can see that I might need to work on and focus on that position of hands more to just get used to drawing that kind of hand. But overall, as the days go on, I get better. But what about the control? Was there any improvement there? Let's check it out. So as you know, I did a control image at the very beginning and I did a control at the end. Here's a comparison between the two controls and the reference, and there is some improvement on control 2, and then there are some areas where I kind of fell short, maybe a little bit, maybe not looking at the reference as much as I should have, and well, it does show a little bit of improvement. So yeah, the experiment worked. The more you draw, the better you get. Ultimately, that's how it works. So overall, there is improvement as you go along. It's a little bit difficult to see it with me because I'm a little bit more experienced at drawing hands. So it's down to you guys. If you've been following along with the challenge, then I'd love to see them. So please send me a message on Twitter with your images and all that good stuff. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and please like this video. If you think someone's going to get anything out of it, please share it. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.